So I'm Brandon Weiland. Just make a friend. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, you've made a friend. Money's a tool. It's a fantastic tool. It's a tool that we need. It is not like we can't live without it. Some days I can't even believe that my life is my life. Like, honestly, I'm like, it's so cool. I would have never thought that I'd be doing some of the things that I'm doing that are just out of my comfort zone, or I'm just figuring it out as I go along. Be honest, be vulnerable, allow yourself to just learn.
What's up, guys? Lift and Love. Lift and Love here. Where did you pull this question from? Why is that? Lift Love. Crochet. We out. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Lifting Love podcast. You are awesome, and today, this episode is brought to you by J. Brown Realtors. But today we have such a special guest, a friend of mine. You have a million titles, I've just realized, as I'm thinking of what to say.
Yes.
Financial advisor. Did I hear this right? You're the president of Hype as well?
Yeah, newly designated president of the Hickory Young Professionals. Yeah.
Look at you. Okay, so let's go through this. Financial advisor, president of the Hickory Young Professionals, just a great, awesome dude.
I appreciate that.
My personal financial advisor is Brandon Weiland. Did I say that right?
Weiland. That's okay.
Weiland.
That's okay.
How many times do you get like that messed
Oh,
up?
all sorts of different names. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's not an easy one to pronounce. Don't worry. Yeah. And then you try to spell it like on the phone and you're like land and they're like, oh, lamb, like the animal. You're like, no, but that's okay. Like I'll respond to it. That's fine.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks,
welcome
man.
To the Lifting Love podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. What an intro. I appreciate it.
I was trying to figure it out. I was like, man, he's got a lot of titles. And then I remember Dr. Matt, I think, told me that you became the president of Hype.
Yes. Yeah.
How's that been?
It's great. On like week 2. So, doing fantastic.
Making changes.
Yes. Much like a regular president, you're judged by your first 100 days in office. So we're trying to make things happen. No, it's been great. Really excited about the opportunity.
Yeah.
Really trying to just forge a great path for the young professionals in the area. Just trying to figure it out,
I think that's the biggest part of the job. Is just
figuring it out. Yeah. I think it has to be probably a 2-termer because I'm going to take this entire first term to just figure out what's going on before making any giant changes. So
we're going to talk about Hype here in a little bit. But before we do that, for the people who don't know who you are, I mean, they must be living under a rock. But for the people who don't know who you are you and what do you do?
Yeah. So I'm Brandon Weiland. I am from southeastern Wisconsin originally. Grew up as a military kid, so we moved around quite a bit. Ended up on the east coast of North Carolina and ended up moving to Boone, where I went to Appalachian State University. Met my wife there, Rachel. She's fantastic. So first title is definitely husband. Dog dad comes second. And then since we graduated from that, we moved to Hickory and started a career as a financial advisor.
So if I could take you way back.
Yes.
I didn't know half of those things you just said.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm a bad friend. I apologize.
That's okay.
So being a military baby, what was that experience like? Was it kind of one of those like typical movie things where it's like you moved all different places, never really kind of established anywhere? Where did y'all like move? Yeah,
so I had a unique experience. So my mom and my dad were never really together, and so grew up really with my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom met my stepdad when I was 5, and then my stepdad when he graduated from university, rejoined the Marine Corps. He was prior enlisted, went to university, and then became an officer. And so had this weird, interesting dynamic where, not only did I move around a ton, but I also went back to Wisconsin up until I was about 14 to visit my dad's side of the family. So not only was I like moving around all the time, like every other holiday, every other, summer, all this other stuff, it was just like constantly on the move. Yeah. So the picturesque military family where you move to Japan and then you move to Germany and you move to all these fantastic places was not my experience. I had an amazing childhood growing up. Got to live in places, Pensacola, Florida, Whidbey Island. Did you know there's an island in the middle of Washington State? I didn't.
Ooh, there's an island in the like Washington State, like Oregon?
Yeah, like north of Oregon, the top left of our great country. There is an island, Whidbey Island. You are surrounded by land all around you. You have a beautiful view of Mount Rainier, like all these amazing things, but you're like in the middle of the state, but also on an island. Who knew?
That is such an interesting dynamic. That's got to be such a mental mess up. Like, you're just like, huh,
Like it's both beautiful and you're also like, I bet I could swim to the other side, right? Good thing I did, and I was like 10, so probably wouldn't have made it very far. But yeah, I lived in Florida, Washington State, Virginia, North Carolina twice, and that's really the extent of it. I mean, we moved to not the most amazing or glamorous places in the world, but
besides North Carolina, obviously, which was your favorite.
Of course, absolutely, absolutely.
What was your favorite place living?
I mean, North Carolina, and that's not to kiss any, like it's true. No, I've loved it, and I think it's because at this point now I have finally lived in a place long enough than when I lived in Wisconsin, right? So like I grew up there from like 0 to 7 or 8. I've now lived in North Carolina for at least 10 years.
Oh wow!
And so that's kind of it's now home. Right.
That's
like
awesome.
now it's truly home. So I've loved it. We've got mountains for snowboarding. Love to do that. We've got the beach, which is fantastic. You got everything in between. So it's really been great. So
that's awesome. Is there like something that you kind of took from your childhood as far as like moving around all the time? That could definitely explain the social thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you think that played a part in how social you are because you're able to connect with? I mean, you talk about all the different states.
Yeah.
Personalities and dialogue is so different in each state.
Yeah.
You think that helped you?
Yeah, I mean, more than I think geographically, I think like just having that constant state of resiliency, right, and having to constantly start over, you can kind of choose, and I don't think people necessarily choose if they're an introvert or extrovert, right? But like I clearly was more down the extroverted path. But it was great because it forced me into really uncomfortable situations to meet new people. I have 2 younger siblings, but they are far younger than I am. So my brother, he's 18. My sister, she's 15.
Oh, wow.
So pretty big age gap there where a lot of my time was spent kind of around adults. And so like growing up in that, it was a lot of times like having real conversations with like grown-ups, right? And, you kind of had this revolving door of grown-ups because everybody's moving at different times and all this great stuff. So I think definitely, I think the resiliency factor was huge in that.
Wow. You don't think people choose to be a little extroverted or introverted? That's a really good thing that you said.
I think there are I call it selective extrovertedness and selective introvertedness, right? Like there are times when being around people definitely feeds in, and definitely times when it takes away. And I think it depends on who you're around, right? Like,
dude, environment means so much.
Yes.
Like
100%.
if your environment is awful,
yes,
you're not gonna have a good time. You're not gonna want to be social.
Absolutely.
Like when I go to some of these networking events, I mean, sometimes the energy's just not there. And then sometimes when I pull up and I see you, it's like
the energy's there. Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like when you're in situations with people, like, when you and I get in a room together, it's just a ton of fun, right? Like there's just this genuine like happiness and just this genuine kind of like just love, right?
Yeah. No pun intended.
No pun intended. But it's like, I mean, you got to kind of think like those are the people that feed into your soul rather than, not
take
that
away.
people take from it, but it's like sometimes you really have to try, and really trying can be exhausting.
It's like a resistance. I don't think people take away.
Yeah.
They add resistance to like the energy
Yes.
in the room. I'm a big energy. I've always been a big energy guy.
Yeah.
Because like when someone gives good energy,
Yep.
gosh, it's so easy
100%.
to be like, dude, like how can I help you?
Yes.
This, that, and the third, whatever that is. But the minute someone is like, I don't want to say negative, but like someone who pushed that resistance, it's like, I kind of want to leave. Like, I gotta go.
I feel uncomfortable all of a sudden, right? And then you have to discern, like, is this genuine engagement or is this disingenuous? Like,
that's the hardest part for me in the networking scene because there are some people who take the very social approach to sell.
Yes. Yep.
And that's great.
Yep.
But I feel like sales are going to happen.
Sure.
If you're just naturally yourself, and if you just naturally happen to be like how we are, super social, people are going to want to do business with you.
Sure.
I think some people are misled in the fact of like, you don't have to just turn it on a character.
Yeah.
Like you could truly be yourself and people
100%.
are going to want to do business with you.
Yeah. And if they're not, it wasn't going to happen to begin with.
Exactly.
Like.
So it's really not, if anything, you just saved yourself some time.
Yes. Yeah. Like just make a friend. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, you've made a friend. And that's okay.
I think we need to just start giving a class to
100%.
people.
Yeah. This is the friendship podcast. Okay. We're talking through how to make friends. Friendship leads to sales sometimes, if not at least to friendship. Okay.
So military family you come from. What were your plans in high school? Like I want to kind of guide us to how you got to where you are today.
Yeah.
did you have any plans in high school at athletics? What was your thing in high school that you wanted to do or had your mind set on doing?
Yeah, I mean, really, I didn't have any clue in the sense that nothing ever really appealed to me other than following in my dad's footsteps. So kind of the plan was go into the Marine Corps out of school, right? And I kind of started to voice that plan to my parents. And my dad was like, hey, went down that route, not a bad route to go. Could you consider trying college and seeing if you can figure something else out? And if you still want to go in, you're really going to set yourself up after college to be in a little bit of a better position in the Marine Corps if that's still what you want to do.
Because they pay more if you have like a college degree.
Pay more, some of the retirement benefits are better. You do get, you're an officer at that point. There are there's some differences, right? Like one's not necessarily better than the other. There's just differences. And so I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. So worst case scenario, I go in as an officer, I have a college degree. I have something to fall back on if something doesn't work out. I graduated high school in 2017, ended up at Appalachian and was like, hey, I just want to get this college thing done with as quickly as I can. So graduated college in 3 years, just kind of went nose to the grindstone. How fast can I get this done? Yeah. And it was my last year. And kind of thinking through, hey, what do I want to do? What comes next? I skipped a very crucial part, which was I met my now wife in 2018. And so we started dating spring of 2018. The love just sprouted from there, right? I could say that everything that I did was just so romantic, but if you ask her, it'd be a total lie because I fumbled all over my words, and there's no reason that she should be married to me, but yet God is just awesome, and I didn't have to have the right words. Thank the Lord. So we ended up getting married in November of 2019. So before that, we had kind of talked through what my plan was, what her plan was. And I had decided, hey, Marine Corps is not what she wants for her life. I have no idea what that means for me because that's been my plan for years, but I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. And it wasn't really until 2020 that I figured out what I wanted to do next, which is the role that I'm in now.
So your wife was the one who was against the Marine?
Yeah, and it wasn't that she was necessarily against the Marine Corps. It was the constantly moving lifestyle. The lifestyle. She has such a great relationship with her family, and so many of them are super local here. And so it was kind of like, hey, I want to be by my family, right? Like, that's just not what I envisioned for my life. And, I mean, I'm super grateful for where I'm at now. The Lord works in mysterious ways. So,
how much different do you think life looked if you would have went Marine Corps?
I can't, some days I can't even believe that my life is my life. Honestly, I'm like, it's so cool. I would have never thought that I'd be doing some of the things that I'm doing that are just out of my comfort zone, or I'm just figuring it out as I go along. So if it were me in the Marine Corps, I have no idea. I can't even envision what that would look like.
Really?
It would have to be just this complete alternate universe of a Brandon that I don't even know. So it would just be super wild.
And then, so you went to college, you met your wife.
Yep.
How did you end up doing what you do now?
Yeah.
Is there like a critical story that kind of just changed your trajectory?
Yeah, I mean, kind of catalyst, because I was just like, hey, I want to get college done as quickly as I can. I didn't change my major to finance. I didn't have a background, right? I had a passion. I enjoyed it. I kind of didn't ever think of it as a career. It was never presented to me, right? Finances wasn't something that we really talked about a ton other than hey, save money, spend less than you make, the basics, right? But other than that, it wasn't investing wasn't my thing. I wasn't this guru that, hey, ever since freshman year of college, I've been day trading every day,
I got
all this
with
stuff.
Bitcoin and all this
Exactly.
stuff.
That was not me. That wasn't me. And so really the catalyst was my brother-in-law had started with the firm, and, he had kind of shared the opportunity with my wife, Rachel. And she really didn't even really understand what the opportunity was and what it was like to be a financial advisor, what that day in the life looked like. So she kind of explored that. She's a year older than I am, so she graduated college a year before I did, was kind of exploring that as an option. She was doing photography at a professional level, which was really cool. And she was thinking, hey, this is maybe what I'm going to do for a while. And then this opportunity presented itself through my brother-in-law. it kind of took off from there, So found out more about it from her. Really kind of just had people poured into me, and that's I think a story for a lot of people is like the more that you pour into other people, the more opportunities you create for others, and I think the more fulfilled your life is. So
for sure.
I had a lot of really great people pour into me and just kind of be honest and upfront about what that looked like, and a year and a half later, I found myself in those shoes. So,
is it crazy to think that, like, let's go back to like high school, Brandon? Is it crazy to think that you'd be a financial advisor however many years later? How many years ago was high school?
So that would have been, I graduated in 2017. So,
there's no way we're the same age.
We are. Yes.
That's so crazy. Dude, this whole time I thought you were like a couple years older.
No. Super young. Just turned 26 in November last year.
Oh my God, I'm older than you.
So there you go.
Oh my
there you
God.
go.
Look at this. That's so cool.
Dude, it's insane. I never would have thought, that I'd be in the position that I'm in now. Didn't even know it was an option. Like it wasn't on my vision board of, hey, these are the things I'm going to accomplish in life. Right. Like, I think my whole life has kind of turned out that way. Like from college on, it's like never knew I would graduate college. Like that was something that in the first couple years of high school, it was a goal, but I was like, I don't know, maybe that's for me, maybe that's not. Married, got married at 21, which is amazing. So cool. We bought our first house. Like we had all these milestones way before I ever thought that I would have those milestones. And
so awesome.
This career is definitely one of them, where it's like some days I still am like, it's really cool that I have like not only this opportunity, but this amount of trust with the people that I work with, and it's like, it's just, I never would have thought that I'd ever be in this position.
So you bring up a good point. There's a couple things I want to talk about off of what you were just saying, but the trust in people to not only trust you, but like the ability to be like, here's a lump sum of money, or here's my life savings. Help me. How does that responsibility weigh on you? Like how does that stress you out at all?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it can, right? And I think, knowledge is power in our business, right? Yeah. And so there's a point that you can overthink things. There's a point that you can think too simply, right? So you got to kind of be in the middle, right? And you got to know, if I were sitting in an office, let's say that you were a financial advisor, how would I want you to treat my mom who's sitting right next to me, right? How would I want you to explain things? How would I want you to treat her and not look at me like, oh, hey, like I'm going to talk down to you or your mom? I never want to be viewed as someone that talks down to people that just. So I think with that, like there's of course inherent stress in that. Like there's a responsibility, right? I love the phrase. Really what we're doing is we are stewarding people's money that they've been temporarily entrusted with. So it's not our money, right? Like it's not mine because I'm managing it, but it's also not yours because we're all managing God's money, right? And that's kind of how I view it, right? And so money's a tool. It's a fantastic tool. It's a tool that we need. It is not like we can't live without it, right? Like it's this thing, but it's just a tool, right? So how do we steward it to the best of people's ability, and how do we make sure that you have a life that has meaning and impact? Money doesn't have anything to do with that, but it can be a tool to create more meaning and impact. So definitely a lot of stress. I don't feel that every day. I will say that there are times when I feel it more than others, and I feel it most when we have the ability to partner with people that I have a super deep connection with, that I'm like, I just want to do as great of a job as I can possibly do for them, So
like, is there, like, even go back to the whole trust thing, and it's like you trusting in the stock market and like all these things that, like, I hear all the statistics. For the past 100 years, it's always grown 10%.
I don't know where you would have heard that from. I have no idea.
I know a guy. But even then, like, is there ever a point where, like, you could envision, I mean, because like 2008 is a perfect example.
Sure.
I was super young. You were super young.
Yep.
But
don't remember it. Yeah.
I was like playing outside.
Exactly.
But like there are people who truly lost everything. So like, I think for me, like someone who like, I mean, obviously we speak on a financial level, but like before I met you and had those deep conversations with you, it was always like, how do you put all this faith in really this made up thing? Like, at the end of the day, like obviously like businesses make money, their stocks go up and they have all this stuff. But like it's kind of just a system that like you don't really know how it works.
Sure.
But it just seems to work because apparently it just continues to go up.
Sure.
Like how do you educate people on the stock market, on a bull market, on a bear market? Like how do you educate them while also trying to make it make sense?
Yeah. You can throw numbers, you can throw statistics, you can throw history, you can throw all these things. I boil it down to springtime water, Google, Coca-Cola. Right? Like these companies, you see them on the shelves, you use them in everyday life, even if you don't realize it. Maybe the last time you drank a Coke was 5 years ago, but guess what? That water that you're drinking is owned by the Coca-Cola Corporation, right? And so I relate it. A lot of what you said, I think rings true, but there's also so much in there that if you really study it, if you really dig deep, like it makes sense to me, right? Yeah. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, like here's all the numbers and here's all the different things. So we're going to look at all of these fancy words. It's really, when you look at it, what do you use every day? Why wouldn't you want to share in the profits of the things that you use every day? Right? And so you're going to use it no matter what. It's going to be there no matter what. Yeah. Google's not going anywhere. Amazon, if anything, is going to just take over the world. Okay, they're not going anywhere, right? Like, I've seen things that it's like, could Amazon be the next largest lumber supplier in the United States outside of, they're even going to defeat Lowe's and Home Depot? You're like,
what can't they do?
What do you mean these 2x4s have same day shipping from Amazon, right? Like we're gonna have construction sites with Amazon vans outside. Like,
hey, listen.
So I like to boil it down to what do we use? What are the things in your life that you may not even realize that you're using, and how can we leverage that to just build that big beautiful tomorrow? And so I think that's the biggest thing, right? So we can look at history, right? History is going to show us what has happened. We can't predict what the future holds, but we have a long enough track record where we can make educated guesses, right? And that's the biggest thing. How can we use history in our favor, but how can we prepare for whatever comes tomorrow?
When you first started, were there any... When you first started, what were the biggest lessons that you learned? Like, obviously, you get into something like this, and you're entrusted with, like responsibilities that are huge, are massive. What lessons did you learn in the first, couple weeks, couple months that you were doing it that kind of really led you down the road of success?
Yeah, I mean, honesty is the biggest thing that comes to mind first and foremost. There's even still times where, someone will come to me with a really complex problem. I mean, I haven't been doing this for 40 years, right? And so like being confident enough to say, I don't know, but I'll find out, right? And maybe sometimes what I find out is wow, that's something that we're going to have to dig really deep on and ask more questions about. But not trying to come up with an answer just for the sake of giving someone an answer, but being really honest and transparent. Like, hey, that's not something that I've come across or I don't come across very regularly. Like, let me do some more research. On the flip side of that is be really, really educated on as many subjects as you can so that you don't have to say that, right? Because nothing makes me feel smaller than sitting across from the table from someone that clearly knows more than me and me feeling like, why am I in this meeting, right? And so early on, that was hard. That was a hard pill to swallow, but I have such a great support system throughout the firm, throughout, my colleagues, that it's like, we're not in battle against each other. We're really there to support one another. Yeah. And if I need to ask a question, that's the biggest thing. Be vulnerable, ask questions, want to learn, have that thirst for knowledge, because it may seem small, but you're going to use it. And there's been so many times where it's I could just check out, and just be like, I'm just not listening. Right. And there's times when it's I'm so glad that I listened, because 3, 6, 9 months later, someone asked that question. I'm like,
got this.
Oh, snap. I remember that statistic, or I remember the answer to that, right? So it's be honest, be vulnerable, allow yourself to just learn, right? And I think that's with everything, right? I don't think that that's something specific to this. I think that everyone's entrusted with something.
That's true.
Everyone has someone that's trusting them with whatever that might be. For me, it's money, but on a bigger level, it's more emotion. I think of myself more as like, problem solver, therapist. There's all sorts of hats that I think we all wear, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about like just asking good questions, right? Like we can solve math all day long, but as we all know, money and math don't always go hand in hand. There's so much emotion tied into that, and so if I don't understand someone on an emotional level, doing math for them isn't going to help.
What let me rephrase that. Why finance though?
Mm-hmm.
Like was there like a story behind it? Like did 2008 happen to your parents?
Mm-hmm.
Was there like what's your why behind finance? I feel like for everybody, like there's some type of why.
Yeah.
What's your why?
Yeah. I wish that I had like a really emotional, like deep, touching story, right? To get all the viewers just really like teared up and ready to go and just like, yes, I can get behind that. Really, I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest blessings that my dad gave us was a fantastic lifestyle growing up that came at the sacrifice of him being gone a lot, right? Like any time that my dad was deployed, it put a lot of stress on my mom and on us, but it was all worth it because he was cultivating just this fantastic lifestyle and this great life for my mom and my family. So, looking back, it was like, okay, there were all sorts of things that my dad wanted to be at, that I wanted him at, and that I don't harbor anything against him for because that was just the nature of the job. But it was like, how can I be at all of those things for my family one day? And so one of the biggest things was freedom, right? Like I have the freedom to work 80 hours a week when I have to. I also have the freedom that I don't have to ask to not be at work. I don't have to tell someone, hey, I'm not going to be there during these hours. Or I have the freedom to, one day when we have kids to say, hey, I'm going to the baseball game, I'm going to the football game, I'm going to these different things and not have to ask permission, right? And so it was, hey, we're young. We can handle some added pressure now in order to build that tomorrow, today. And freedom was huge in that. And, again, like I didn't really ever think, hey, finance is what I'm going to do. Like that wasn't something that I was like, yes, this is my path. But I've fallen in love with it every single day, and I really enjoy it. So for me, it was lifestyle driven. It was how can I create a life that I enjoy, that I can provide for my family. Super grateful to have such a hardworking wife. Like we wouldn't have the life that we have without all of her hard work. So us working together in that is just fantastic.
How interesting is it that you guys both have the same job?
Yeah.
Is it like cool that you get to come home and like you guys both have like the same problems or same issues and you guys get to just vent to each other and actually understand each other?
Yeah.
And then you get to shut it off? Mm-hmm. Or is it kind of like what is it like having a spouse that's in the same field as you?
At first, it was difficult. When we were first starting out, our circles run together. And so oftentimes there would be some, negative emotions towards like, oh, so-and-so wants to go with Rachel over me or vice versa, where it's like, it hurts, right? Because like we, hey, it's business, it's not personal. Or it's, hey, she's in Morganton, you're in Hickory. It's just, that's closer, but it's like, it still feels personal, right? And so at first it was hard. At first there was lots of times where it was like, hey, we're talking about work way too much. We're at the point now where we've realized when to dial it up, when to dial it back. That's not to say that there has been something on my mind at 9:30 at night and we're laying in bed and I'm like, hey, also real quick, the limit or the tax just changed on XYZ. That's right? And she's like, why are you asking me this? Like you had all night to ask me about that, right?
And of course it's right before bed.
Exactly. So now it's become really great where, not only do I have my wife and my best friend, but I've got someone that I can say, hey, I have this thing that I don't know the answer to. You're really smart. Do you know the answer to this, right? So it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I think she really enjoys it. There was definitely some learning curves to begin with. But I've met a lot of people that are in that similar position that, I think at first everybody does feel like, hey, this is weird, right? Like, how do we get past this part? And then once you get past it and you figure it out, our marriage has never been stronger. We've been married for 5 years at this point. That's awesome. So we figured it out. We haven't figured everything out, but on the work front and talking about it and how we navigate that, I feel like we've done a really good job so far.
That's so awesome. Last question I'm going to ask you about your job.
Yeah.
And we're going to go right into the personal stuff.
Ooh.
If you're allowed to, you can tell me if you're not allowed to. Is there a success story you have with somebody that you've worked with? Obviously, you don't have to give the details.
Sure.
It'd be as general as possible.
Yeah.
But is there like a client that you can think of off your head or that you've just helped and it was like maybe they didn't have the best of luck the first time they tried to invest by themselves, but then they worked with you and they were able to double their savings? Like, do you have any success stories like that? And like, if you do, I'm sure you do. I know you do. How proud are you of those success stories?
Yeah, I mean, obviously can't get super specific, but I think there's all sorts of success, right? When it comes to, there's times when we have conversations where a lot of it's hypothetical. It's like, hey, you can do this, right? I can't put into action someone's plan. Only they can do that. But most recently, I mean, the greatest thing was someone had, an amount of debt, and they were paying super high interest. They were just like, hey, we just want to be unburdened from this. But we've heard from other, advisors, like, just pay it down over time. You can use the extra cash flow to invest and all this different stuff. I ride the line between like Dave Ramsey and the Money Guy show. If you don't know those, absolutely love it. But, there's a fantastic podcast for anyone that's getting into, the area of personal finance and wants to just do better for themselves. The Money Guy show is fantastic.
Phenomenal.
It's amazing. And, I was just kind of thinking through, I was like, what would Dave say, right? But also, like, what makes the most sense here, right? Like, because in our job, right, like, the more money that you manage for someone, like, yes, the more money that you would make. But on the flip side of that, like, I knew that this debt was more than just a number to this family. And it
was like an actual burden.
Yes, absolutely. And they had the means to get rid of it, and they were still gonna be fine. And they were just like, well, what's the logical thing to do? And I was like, pay it off. Like, just get rid of it. And I asked them, I looked at it, and I was like, hey, how good would you feel tomorrow if you didn't have that? And they're like, well, we'd feel really good. And I was like, then why would you not pay it off, right?
Just do it.
Exactly. And they're like, well, I never really thought about how it like would make us feel. I was like, why? Because you've worked all this time.
Yeah.
Why would you want to not wake up and feel amazing? So greatest thing, was I checked in with them, a couple of weeks later. We had set the plan, but again, I can't implement the plan for them.
Yeah,
right?
You can't be the guy to pay off their debt. They
Exactly.
have to do it,
Exactly.
Or invest however much.
I wish that I was at that point in my philanthropy to just pay off mountains of debt for people, but I'm just not there yet.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Yeah, next episode. But it was just amazing, and a couple of weeks later, checked back in with them, and they had done it. They had followed through with it. And, they're like, it was kind of weird seeing our account balances that low, but also like, we know we're going to be okay. And I asked again, I was like, well, how does that make you feel? And they were like, it is so amazing to not owe anybody anything. I was like, there you go.
What is that like? It's gotta be like for me, it's gotta just be like, for my experience, my field, it's just like when I shoot a banger video.
Yep.
Like for you, that must feel like you're on cloud nine when someone's like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like you have literally changed the trajectory of my life, not only financially, but mentally, which is like, and debt and finance is such a huge burden.
Yeah.
Special shout out to Jay Brown there in the back. But that's such a huge burden that gets lifted off them. What does that do to you? Like, that's just, what does that rush feel like?
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of listening to a speaker, Eric Maddox, speak. So he was a former special operative. So he was a interrogator, and he I forget all the stories. It was, in a 1 hour thing, but he essentially found one of the world's highest level terrorists through his interrogation techniques. And was able to lead to their capture. But now turning that into, more of sales tactics and things like that, he talks about stepping on other people's stage. And really it's stepping off of what's my agenda, what's going to benefit me, and what's the most important thing to the person sitting across from me. And so when I think about that, it's like, man, I got the opportunity to like sit on their stage with them and just like be a part of that. And it's like, I felt the burden lift from me, but it didn't. It lifted from them, right? Like it lifted from them.
Why am I feeling less stressful?
Exactly. Like I feel so good right now. And it just filled me with so much joy because, it was like, at the end of the day, it wasn't about what was going to benefit me, it was what's going to make them feel the best about what's coming up for them tomorrow. And so it felt so good. Yeah, it felt so good.
That rush, that adrenaline dump is
yes.
Be like, oh my god.
Oh, I think I took the rest of the day off. I was like,
my deed's done for today.
I chalked up. Today's a good day. Like tomorrow's problems are tomorrow's problems.
It's like 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's like I just got here. I'm leaving. Yeah.
Literally puts his stuff down, gets off the phone. All right, well, guess we're going back.
This
home.
is a great day. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. It was really awesome. Yeah.
So now to get a little more personal.
Yeah.
You're a husband. How is that? I mean, like you said, you got married super young.
Yep.
What kind of an adjustment was that?
Yeah.
Because you went like straight from college, straight into marriage, basically.
Yep. Yeah, actually, I had not yet graduated college, and we had gotten married. Yeah.
Oh.
My request was that I could be 21 at my wedding.
So, could you imagine being the groom and being like, well, I can't serve you alcohol.
Yeah,
sorry.
I actually can't have that glass of wine. No, I mean, and Rachel will tell anybody this. I mean, I've been 50 years old for the past like 15 years. Like, I go to sleep at a reasonable hour. Like, I do all the things, right? So it really for us, like we had dated, from 2018 to the end of 2019. Probably total time was a year and a half, maybe a little bit more before we had gotten married. And we honestly, like, we had spent so much time together during that it was amazing. Don't get me wrong. Like, but I think the coolest part was going from college life into, like, we got married November 30th of 2019, and December 25th on Christmas Day, we moved to Arizona, just the two of us. She was taking her job with Edward Jones, and there was a home office out there for her training, and I was taking an internship. Well, like, we got married and like moved away, and it was just the two of us to figure it out. Wow. And so it was like thrown right into like, okay, like no parents, no friends, like it's just the two of us. Like, we can make it if we try. So exactly. So that was a huge thing for us, was like we got 6 months to just like enjoy each other and to figure out how to be married and like figure it all out. And it was just such a huge blessing.
How much, I mean, obviously I think for you grew up really early because your life as a child was kind of sporadic, if you will. How much did you grow up as a man as far as like being married and being like, okay, now it's not just me running around doing whatever I got to do. Yeah. Like I have like someone to answer to, as a partner. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think it's, there's always growing up to do, right? There's always something that comes next. There's always the next thing, for us, like in our stage of life, like kind of looking forward. It's like, okay, like have to be a good husband, have to do the things, have to grow not only spiritually one-on-one with God, but also like how do we grow, together as a couple. So there's always challenges, like not perfect, right? Like it's always just kind of like, how can I do a little bit better each day and build good habits? But looking forward, it's like, okay, this, it's kind of stressful to figure out how to be, a really good husband. And then you're like, okay, well, the next stage of life for you especially is as a father. And you're like,
it's coming up quick.
Yes. You're like, how do I now manage that? Because that's a whole new responsibility.
Is that something that, I mean, obviously you guys probably talked about it. Is that one of the next steps in the next couple of years?
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, hopefully that's down the line for us, and that's something that I'm super excited about. I know Rachel is super excited about. It's different because like our role in that early on is very simple, and there's a lot of legwork that has to be done by mom, the first couple of months. So, there's a mixed bag of emotions there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I think, there's so much responsibility in being a husband and stewarding that. And there's so much leadership in that you need other men to pour into you. You need to pour into other men. You need to learn from each other. And so having just a good, solid group of guys that it's like, hey, like, how are things going? Like check in, like get on a, like, not a manly emotional level, but on a, like, hey, this is a true emotional level. Like, how are you doing? Like what's going on with you? That's been key.
So there's also another dynamic that you talked about earlier. You're a dog dad.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
People don't talk about their dogs a lot, but like,
I love my dog.
I know, I love my dog too. And like for me, I also had this moment of growing up.
Yep.
So like as a kid, like I had dogs.
Yeah.
And I loved all the dogs I've had.
Yeah.
But they weren't like my dog.
Yeah.
They were the family dog.
Yes.
Like they were like, yeah, I would take care of it and I would do some things, but like it wasn't 100% my responsibility.
For sure.
The dog me and my wife got 100% my responsibility.
That's your child.
It is like such a deep connection I have with this little animal.
Yep.
And it's like, did that change you, or like did that influence how you like treat relationships when it comes to like, because they are literally human. Like people, some people are just like, oh, that's an animal. Like no, that's literally another family member. Like what did being a dog dad do for you?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a now 4.5-year-old golden doodle. Her name is Scout. She's black, not golden in any way, shape, or form. And so we milk that joke as much as we possibly can. And yeah, so we got her. She was a COVID dog. We bought our house in July of 2020. We said, yeah, it'd be nice to have a dog someday. About 6 weeks later, we ended up with a dog.
That was quick.
Yes. And so, like, total love at first sight. Just absolutely loved her. And, yeah, from that point, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I can read Scout sometimes better than I can read Rachel. You know, I'm like, I know what she wants. I know what she's thinking. Like, I know when she's sad or mad at me. You know, it's like, I know those eyes. Lately, we haven't been able to play as much because it's freezing, and she gives me the eyes like dude, I'm a little upset at you. Yeah, like this is not very fun right now. And
it's
so
like, it's like so weird the connection that you can have with an animal. I mean, even I like dogs, but like dogs specifically in this conversation. But I mean, there's like so many animals that you can have like such a connection. It's so weird that like this domesticated animal is just like. They can't speak. They can't communicate. They can in some ways, but they can't like speak to you in English and be like, "This is what I want." Yeah. But there is just such a love.
Absolutely.
And they are so unconditionally loving. Yeah. It's like, how do we get so spoiled? Yeah. To have such an incredible love.
100%. Yeah. Man's best friend. Like, and I think you know, for us, it's just been great. You know, some people are like, well, you know, it's just a lot of responsibility, and it certainly is. Like, you gotta take care of them. They deserve the absolute best because they can't do anything for themselves. You know, like, so you gotta take care of them. Got to do so many great things. But really, for us, it's been like we love her like a part of the family. You know, like, and we don't have kids yet, so you know we're at that, you know, what is it? Dual income, no kids. Dinkwads. Yeah, dual income, no kids with a dog. That's where we're at right now. So we're in the dinkwad category. So does she get things that maybe dogs with families that have children might not get? Yes, because we don't have children.
That is your child.
Yeah, we don't have that responsibility right now. So is it a little over the top sometimes? Absolutely. But she deserves no less than that. Absolutely. She wants it, she gets it, okay? And Rachel's like, she has enough. Like, no, I'm the one that definitely is like, no, she needs that new toy. She's like, well, she has 50, so probably not, you know? And I'm like, but come on, like, look how cute she is, you know? Like, she loves it.
Are you going to say no to that face?
Exactly. So it's been so much fun. I agree with your statement. Like, we had family dogs that have passed away. No connection like what we have with, you know, with Scout, with Rachel and I's dog. So
you're also a big gym guy. Like, massive.
Yep.
I see your burn boot camp videos like every day. It seems like
sorry about that.
I'm looking at your store. I'm like, oh, he's at burn again. What has the gym done for you? Are you one of those people who is an early riser, go to the gym early, or you're like, let's get the work day done, go to the gym? Yeah. What kind of structure has the gym brought to your life?
Yeah, my fitness journey is super cool, and I never really went to like the bro gym, you know, where it was just like you kind of just walk in and get your workout. I played football when I was in middle school and high school, and from that found CrossFit. My mom actually started going to a gym in New Bern, North Carolina, CrossFit Burn. That place holds a extremely special place in my heart from what it did from a not only a physical standpoint, but just a relationship standpoint. Like some of the people that went to that gym that I now have relationships with as an adult were so formative in my early years. And so like started working out when I was 14 at the CrossFit gym, had so many mentors that poured into me, ended up getting into competitive CrossFit later on. Oh, wow. You know, a little bit of clout, placed second in North Carolina and 11th in the Southwest region at one time. Thank you. It's the only claim to fame that I have, but ended up getting injured when I was 19. Slipped a disc, just kind of spiraled into like I still have, some lower back issues and things like that where I just haven't really competed since then. And it's something that I would love to do, but now fitness is just different, and it's more like, okay, yeah, I'd like to aesthetically look nice, but I'd also like to function, right?
Yeah.
And I'd like to do things. And I think part of that is like just trying to kind of chase what was. I don't want to be that old guy in the gym. Like, hey, back in my day, I used to be able to do this. But sometimes I'm like, okay, like when I felt as though I was at my fittest, like what could I do and what is that transition to? And now it's like, how can I have fun? And Burn has just been so much fun. I've always liked the group classes. I started in CrossFit, doing more competitive stuff. You end up working out like a lot on your own, and it's just a lot of solitude, time and place for that. There's always a good time for that. But I always loved the class. I'm a very energetic person. I like to have fun.
No.
I know. It's just surprising to anyone that knows me.
I didn't know that.
Super, super surprising. But it's like I get to have fun, like it's 45 minutes. It's usually one of the best 45 minutes of my day.
And it probably goes by so much faster when you got like a group of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
and I mean, it's misery sometimes. Like there are days when I'm like, this is awful. Why did I come? But I always leave feeling so much more energized, so glad that I did it. And it's just always so much fun. And I have so many friends now that go to Burn, or friends that I've made, that it's like, yeah, all we do is work out together, but it's like, it's good to see their face and it fills me with joy to be able to just spend 45 minutes suffering with them and having a good time. So yeah, it's a great time. Shout out Burn Boot Camp.
Facts.
Yeah.
Shout out Burn Boot Camp. Would love to do a pod in the gym.
Yes, absolutely.
Going back to hype.
Yeah.
Hickory Young Professionals, for those of you that don't know what hype is.
Yes.
First off, can you talk a little bit about it?
Sure.
What it is?
Yeah.
And how did you get the role of president?
Yeah, all excellent questions. Yeah, you're asking all the right things. So Hickory Young Professionals, I've been super candid with people that, one, I don't know how long it's been around, to be completely honest, because I wasn't there when it started. But what it is it's an avenue for young professionals in the Hickory area to have the ability to network with other young professionals. Right now we're defining Jay Brown out here. There he is. There he goes. Love you.
I love you more, Jay.
But it's an opportunity for young professionals in the area to specifically network with other young professionals. Young is a subjective term. I think under 40 is how we're classifying that. If you're, young or in that over 40 category, the chamber is an excellent place for you to network. But we're specifically targeting really that 20 to 40 kind of age range. So how did I get here? I've been involved with hype for the past year. Lots of really great things going on, but a lot that we can improve on. And so I think I had maybe too many ideas for my own good and was then asked to step into that leadership role and to implement some of those ideas. So kind of working through what that looks like now.
Yeah.
So
would I know from a term perspective, everyone's like, well, 1 year is a long time. It's really not.
Yes.
What can people expect from hype now that you're taking over the reins?
Yeah.
Because I know it's really hard to affect change in 1 year.
Yep.
I mean, it's just the truth. I don't know what the terms look like as far as how many terms you can serve and all that.
Sure.
But
neither do I.
Also, I think hype started in 2006.
There you go.
Because
look at
we
that.
Had Cameron Bixby on an episode.
Boom.
I'm pretty sure she said 2006. Could be wrong.
Shout out Cameron Bixby. Thank you.
Could be completely wrong. What can people expect changing now that you're in charge? And I'm not going to say in charge, but like you're the president.
Yeah.
So
kind of in charge.
Yeah, you're the boss.
Yeah. So figuring out what that looks like. Yeah.
What can people expect from you? Last Jay Brown cameo. What can people see you later, Jay? What can people expect now that you're in charge of what type of things you're going to be implementing to not only, I don't want to say make it better because hype is a very established organization.
Sure.
But there's always ways to improve. So what can people expect for your first term?
Yeah, I think really the goal is consistency and energy, and trying to figure out what we can do really well and doing it better. So, we've implemented a better schedule so that we have less events happening just kind of all over the place. That way people can kind of budget it for their time into their calendar. And then energy.
When you say budget, like as far as like, hey, we're going to do like coffee connections or
Yeah.
the first Thursday of the month. Or I don't
yeah. Shout out Hype. Here's our calendar right here. So, so we've got Hype Coffee Connections is our morning pioneering, networking group. There's lots of folks that have families that after work, that's family time. And we know that not everyone can make it to those things. So we want to provide an alternative for folks to come in the morning. So the second Friday of the month from 8 to 9:30, we're going to have a standing event that will be a morning coffee gathering. You don't have to drink coffee, but if you want to come and network with people in the morning, have an opportunity to just tell more about you, your business, and hopefully make some contacts. The second Friday is going to be your opportunity to do that. Third Thursday, we've got lots of great opportunities throughout Hickory and Catawba County for networking. And so there's a lot to kind of navigate around. But Thursdays is generally a pretty good time because Fridays, people want to go socialize with their friends. They don't really want to think about work. But Thursdays is like the Friday of the work week because you're like, okay, I can.
You're already checked out.
Yeah. Like Thursday night, you're like, I can still work and have a good time, but end of the day on Friday, I want to go home or I want to go do something different, right?
Yeah.
And so, so third Thursdays from 5:30 to 7 is our evening networking. So to go back to like what can you expect from Hype upcoming, really when we talk about consistency, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, hey, these are our dates, these are our times. The location will change, the event may slightly change, but creating value for our members, and what that looks like is creating meaningful and impactful networking events for you to build relationships with people that matter. Not that people don't matter, but those relationships could hopefully lead you down the road of furthering your business success. So we just want to foster that. We want to foster people being able to build their brand, build their business, have a encouraging place to do it, and it's from under 40, right? So you're in a similar boat, right? And you have some common goals and some common themes with people in that age group.
I got two more questions about
Yes.
Hype. What can people? I mean, because there's so many networking opportunities in this area, in and around this area.
Yeah.
Most are very similar.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just a general aspect.
Yeah.
Very similar as far as fostering relationships, building relationships, and just being able to build a network of people that whether they'll be referral based or whether it'll be, hey, I know a guy, or let's partner, let's do collab or whatever. What can people expect different from Hype than like another networking organization?
Yeah. What we would like to have the opportunity to do is blend some of the best attributes of like BNI and the chamber into the Hickory Young Professionals. One of the best things about the Hickory Young Professionals is the price point, especially for new entrepreneurs, is super low, right? And so we want super high quality folks to be involved in it, but we want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. And so when I say kind of merge the best things from the chamber and from BNI, BNI does a really great opportunity for everyone to introduce who they are and what their business is. I know that, even jumping into this role, like going into a crowd at the chamber, First Friday Brews, and there being 100 people, you can feel overwhelmed. And then if you go to a few of them, you get stuck in a great way with the people that you've already met. And you're building great relationships with them and you enjoy spending time with them. But it's also
people, it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. We would love for the Hickory Young Professionals events to grow to that, but we want to give people an opportunity to say, oh man, I'm in this role and Lenny just announced to the entire group what he does. I really want to go find out more about Lenny, rather than, the chamber does a lot of things really, really well and they do amazing things as far as their networking and they have such a great amount of people. But it can just feel overwhelming walking into that many people and not knowing who to talk to.
First Friday morning brew.
Yes.
I mean, I think they did one where it was Burke, Caldwell, and Catawba.
Yeah.
Did you go to that one?
Which was fantastic. Yeah.
I mean,
it was
probably
gigantic.
150 people.
Yes.
I mean, it was. And I'm not somebody who gets social anxiety.
It was overwhelming.
I was overwhelmed.
And you don't know who to talk to.
For me to get overwhelmed, it takes a lot.
That's saying something. That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's what we're trying to do is offer something to the community that, yes, already exists, but allow it, a lot of 20-somethings, you probably haven't networked before. You have in lots of different ways, but, now you're in this role where it's like, oh man, I got like business I got to produce. I got things that I got to do. I got a family, or I need to make money, right? And so you're like, okay, how do I do that? But also, a lot of young 20-somethings just are like really bad at talking to people. And how do we foster an environment that's like, oh, okay, I should go talk to that person, and they've already introduced themselves to this entire group. Now it's less weird for me to go talk to them. And so you're building the practice, but we're helping just give some guide rails to help people kind of embrace that uncomfortable, next step in their business journey. So
it's so awesome to me. It's just like the whole networking scene.
Mm-hmm.
I find it so fascinating. Where like going back to one of our original conversations,
Yeah.
like people are always trying to sell.
Yep.
But like I feel like I connect most with
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't think we didn't do any business together almost
For what, a
6
year?
months,
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
And it was like, and I reached out to you because I was like,
Yeah.
I really need help and I'm struggling in this
Yeah.
department, and you're an expert in it.
Yeah.
But it's just so crazy as far as like
Yeah.
The whole aspect of everything.
Yeah.
And so last two questions.
Yeah.
Financially,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not a financial advisor, what is, again, as basic or as general
Mm-hmm.
as you can be with it?
Yep.
Because I know there's some things with, the company. I don't want to get you in trouble. What's the best piece of basic financial advice that you can give to someone watching this?
Yep.
If they are struggling to save, or maybe they have a great job and a
Mm-hmm.
great income, what's something they can do to elevate themselves to save more money
Yep.
and to potentially use it to invest or whatever they end up doing, pay off debt, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you can give to someone financially?
Yeah, I mean, make really good decisions early, of course. If you can avoid some of the pitfalls as early as you can, like the more educated of a decision you can make, the better. We're not all in a position where, hey, we've already made the decision to get that car payment or to take out the student loans, or we're like, okay, now how do I navigate that, right? So when we are in the space of like, hey, life happens, right? Live on less than you make. Right? It sounds super easy, and it's super not, okay? Because you get those paychecks coming in and you're like, man, this feels good. Like I've worked hard for this money and I want to spend it. There's a lot of people that are undervalued in the marketplace, right? And so having that paycheck come in, it's like, okay, one, you got bills, you got things to do, you got people to pay. And then it's like, well, now I want to enjoy it a little bit, right? If you can start early, just don't spend as much as you make, retain as much as you can, and then take those bonuses, take those pay raises, and just not even think about them and automate good decisions. That's the biggest thing you can do. Just make a budget, right? Follow that budget. Budget is not
such a scary word. Like such a scary word. Like nobody wants to hear budgeting, planning.
Yep.
Nobody wants to hear that.
And we're trying so hard to change that perspective, because I view my budget as freedom to spend my money how I want to.
That's such a good way of saying it.
Yes.
No one has ever said that like that. Because like going back, money is a tool, it's a resource to be able to potentially invest or at least save it to when you really, really need it.
Yep. So realize that a budget is freedom. You're designating where your money goes. It's not dictating how your life operates. Okay. So from that, I kind of think the next step, we've talked about, okay, live on less than you make a budget. And then after that, time is your greatest asset. The earlier you can get started, the absolute better position you can be in, because $100 today versus $100 20 years from now does not do the same thing for your great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And he can't say it, but I will. The stock market has gone up 100% in the past 10 years for like the past 100 or however long it's been. He can't say that, but I can.
So there's so much power in time. We referenced how great the Money Guy show is. I love sitting on the desk as a koozie and it says this $1 beer cost me $8, because time is your greatest asset. Of course, money, you have to have, some extra capital to do something, but time far outweighs how much money you have. If you can get in early, if you can just start automating good decisions and avoiding bad ones, instant gratification is awful these days. I should not be able to finance a toaster over the next 18 months. Okay, it's a toaster. Like,
you can blame these guys right here.
Like, just say no. Some things are worth saying no to. And kind of where you cross that line is are you willing to work several more years for that thing, or would you rather not have to work those 7 more years? So whether it's, the new iPad, whether it's a new car, whether it's different things like, Dave Ramsey says, you buy all these fancy things to impress people that don't give a rip about you. He paraphrases it and says it probably a lot nicer than that, but it's so true.
It's so funny listening to him because he's at like such a point where he's been doing it for so long that I think he forgets that it's 2025 and that $80,000 home costs $500,000 now.
Yes.
I'm listening to some of them and I'm like, I think he's going insane.
Yeah. Like I absolutely love his principles. I think that there's so much value in it. I think that sometimes life gets in the way and life is more complicated, right? Yeah. Like he though is at the point now where it's like,
just do it.
Dude, just do it. Like just do the things. And that's the thing. Take action, right? Yeah. If I could say to anybody, like just don't plan it, execute it. You don't have to have it perfect on day one. It's going to get better. It's never going to be perfect. No. And if it is perfect, like...
You're doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're doing it really right, and you're so good at that thing.
And you can contact us. at liftinglovereacts@gmail.com.
Like, let us know what you're doing at that expert level, please. But yeah, man, automate good decisions. Instant gratification is not your friend. And just try to make smart decisions.
And then the absolute last question I got for you, away from financial advice, what's the best piece? We like to end off on a positive note.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice, just in life in general? Maybe somebody's in a rut mentally, whatever the case is. What's the best piece of advice you can give to somebody about life in general?
Yeah.
Watching this right now.
Ooh, that's a deep one.
We go deep here. On
we do. Man, you got to really think about it too.
I love it.
I've said this a lot lately in my own personal life and in our family. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth it. And I think if something's in the way, if something's really hard, if something is affecting your life to the point that you're at a breaking point, there's something so good that God has for you on the other side of that. So just keep going, It's not that easy sometimes, right? Like life throws obstacles in our way that we have to navigate. But if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth doing.
I love that so much. You're just so good at talking.
I don't know about that.
Energy. I love just like you're so positive. Like I don't meet a lot of people that are similar in some aspects of how I am. It's just really cool to meet cool people. To
be compared to Lenny is a true blessing in life. I hope to have the ounce of positivity that you have.
Oh, stop it. Absolute last thing.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable with it, shout out your social media.
Sure.
And also, where can people find Hickory Young Professionals? I know that's a big thing wanting to promote the social medias as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Hickory Young Professionals, we're on Facebook. That's where you're going to find most of our events, most of the things that are happening with us at the Hickory Young Professionals. You can, of course, go on hyp.com. We are on there, hickoryyoungprofessionals.com. You can find out more about us there. You can send us a newsletter invite. You can send us a membership inquiry. You'll probably get reached out by me, and I'd love to just connect with you and get you plugged into wherever is going to benefit you most in Hickory or Catawba County. Of course, if you want to talk to me, you can reach out, directly 828-327-2014.
We got the phone number.
You're
we're
welcome.
Fancy.
Welcome to call us. You can look us up online. You can find me at edwardjones.com. But otherwise, you can find me out in town, at any and every networking event that you can possibly find at.
Every single one. I appreciate your time, man. I appreciate your friendship.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Thank you so
much.
I love
you, man.
I love you, too.
You're the greatest.
But until next time, if you haven't done so, subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
Yes.
This was another Lifting Love podcast. And until next time, most importantly, lift love, crush hate. And just like that, we out.